this is the particular first question we have, right? The question says you have decided to move your software development environment to the cloud. Which type of cloud delivery model would you be using in this scenario? Okay, fine. Okay, so let's understand what the particular question is, and then we will be jumping to the solution part. Fine. Okay. The first thing the question says that you have to decide to move your software development environment to the cloud. Okay, perfect. So, which type of cloud delivery model would you be using in this particular scenario? Okay, A, B can be the correct answer as well, but we have to choose the one. If we have to choose the one best solution in the cloud, I would say PaaS, platform as a service, would be absolutely correct as compared to the IaaS for application development or software development. What happens really? Okay, so in a normal scenario, if you just for a moment keep aside the cloud part, for a normal scenario, right, where you have the on-premises infrastructure, where everything is built upon in your organization, right? The servers are physically present there, and firewalls are there. Everything has been configured and maintained by your respective organization. Fine. So in that thing, a lot of components are there inside an infrastructure. There could be like storage, okay. There could be like network, and inside the network you connect, create subnet, and all these kind of things. So these are the building block of an organization or an infrastructure, irrespective of an infrastructure is present on premises or in the cloud part. Fine. Okay, so in the IaaS model, what you do is that most of the things, right? I would say operating system, application, runtime, and all these kind of things you have in place is being maintained by you, and half of the stuff, I would say 50-50. If 50% is maintained by you, the 50% of the architecture, and 50% of the architecture is maintained by the cloud service provider. In the PaaS model, platform as a service model, what's the beauty of this particular model is that you have to only worry about the deployment of the code. You have to only worry about the code, right? If let's say, for example, you are building up a website in place, right, in a JavaScript. So you have to only worry about your respective website, the code. That's it. The code should be perfect. It should run absolutely correct without any errors. Okay, you should focus upon your code, and once you're satisfied with your respective code, the syntax, all the errors has been resolved, and all these kind of issues, then all you need to do is that uh, take your particular file where the code is written, upload it into the PaaS platform, right? Particularly in the AWS, we have a feature which is called by the name of Elastic Beanstalk. It's a service we have in place, which exactly mimics the PaaS. Fine. So in that particular Elastic Beanstalk, which is called also called by the name of EB in the AWS, what you need to do is that take your particular piece of code, upload it there, and you are good to go. Fine. So for this particular question, the correct answer is the PaaS. Fine. Okay. Docker is a particular service, guys, which we have in place for deploying the containers. It's a completely different technology. Okay. And SaaS is for software as a service. Okay, it means that a software is being provided to you. Let's say, for example, Facebook application, Instagram application. It's a kind of a software which you are installing in your respective mobile phone, in your respective devices, and you are using it as per your need. But remember, you cannot make any sort of a modification into the code of the Instagram. You cannot make any kind of change into the infrastructure of the Instagram. You cannot make any sort of a change into the architecture infrastructure of the Facebook. You are an end user and just utilizing that particular software. That is the SaaS, software as a service, where you are an end user and you are utilizing the software. Fine. That's the thing. So the correct answer, the precise answer for this particular question would be the PaaS, platform as a service, which is perfect for the software development, because there you only need to worry about the code. That's it. The load balancer, the firewall, the subnet, security, all these things are being taken care by the cloud. It's not your headache. Okay, great, perfect. So this is the correct answer. Fine, the past part. Great. Okay, guys. So let's move to the next question. Okay. So guys, this is a next question we have in place. Just guys go through it. Okay. So let's see what the particular correct answer for this particular question is. Okay. The correct answer is load balancing. Okay. And let me explain why it is so. So the question says that you have configured NIC teaming. So I will be coming to this particular term, NIC teaming. For many people, it would be very new this thing, NIC teaming. So what this set NIC teaming is, right? It's a critical server along with redundancy, which of the following does NIC team provides. Okay. NIC means network interface card. Fine. And what teaming means is that you have a group of NICs. Fine. And what they provide? They provide, after redundancy, they provide load balancing. So what will happen is that, just giving you an example of an architecture, right? So what will happen is that this is a particular NIC you have in place, and just below it you will be having two others NIC. Fine. Okay. Just wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. So what will happen is that this is a what one NIC you have in place, NIC first, and you have another NIC. Okay. You receive a traffic, and what will happen is that your internet, this is a very important component. NIC provides the MAC address to your particular respective device. If your device does not have a NIC card, you does not have a MAC address, and all are very familiar with it, that two very important crucial components we need any device, whether it's a mobile phone, tablet, or Windows, Apple, any kind of a system it have. If you need to be connecting to the internet, two things are crucial for it: IP address and a MAC address. So NIC provides what? NIC provides your respective MAC address. Fine. Okay. So, what really happens in the NIC teaming? NIC teaming is just a simple concept. In this, we take two servers. Fine. What will happen is that we will be taking two servers in place. So let's two NIC cards. Fine. So what will happen is that this would be a logical one, and when the traffic comes, it will be diverted either through, this is your particular PC you have in place. Fine. And now you have in your particular PC NIC1 and NIC2. So either the internet is reaching your respective PC through NIC1 or NIC2. Let's say, for example, if NIC1 fails, fine. If due to any reason this particular fails, still you have NIC2. So what did fine? This is what redundancy it also providing, and load balancing as well. If a lot of traffic it is coming, so it can be distributed between two parties. Okay, that is also can possible through NIC teaming. So it's just simple thing. NIC teaming means a combination, a cluster of NICs. Fine. Okay. Security, it does not provide you to security at all. Fine. Then you have backup. No. NIC network interface card is particularly the whole objective of the NIC is that it protects, it provides you the MAC address. Okay. So no. And scalability, absolutely not. Fine. So this correct answer for this particular thing would be load balancing. Okay. Then you have the third question. Guys, go through this particular third question. Okay. So let's read the particular question. What the question says. The question says that you want to perform a code scan to find out any malicious code hidden inside. Which of the following method should you use? Okay, so we have to find the malicious code. So what is a malicious code? Which contains some sort of a malware. Fine, that's we need to figure it out. Okay, so what we have in place, we have this option, we use sandbox. Okay, great. Sandbox is guys, it's a kind of a, you can say in its environment, it's an isolated environment we have in place. Fine. And inside that isolated environment, what we do, we put up a system inside it, or we put the file folder which we think are the culprit, which holds some sort of a malware, virus, or any kind of thing, right, which can harm our organization or our resources, we keep inside it and then we review it up. Okay, so this is it. Fine. Okay. So sandbox is there. Okay, fine. Let's look for the others option as well. The other is perform a static analysis. Okay. See, sandbox, what it does is that it provides you an environment. Okay, great. But what will you do inside a sandbox? Let me show you an example of a sandbox. Kind of, not exactly. This is a virtual machine I have in place. Okay, and a hypervisor. This is it. This is called VMware Workstation. Fine. And inside it, you can see that you have the Kali Linux, you have the Android, okay, and you have the XP. What I can do is that I can take a malicious file, I can put it inside this Kali Linux or this Windows XP, and what will happen is that let's suppose that respective file is being infected. What will happen? It is trapped inside the sandbox environment. It means that this is my particular PC, and inside the PC, I have this particular hypervisor or this virtual machine. And what I will be doing is that I will be opening up the file inside it. If, let's say, for example, this file is malicious, containing any sort of a malware, what will happen? The file, the malware would not be able to jump out of this particular virtual machine and it will be trapped inside it only. Okay, so that's called the sandbox environment we have in place. Okay, great. Then we have another option we have in place, which is called perform a static analysis. Static analysis means that you are reviewing that particular piece of a code. This is a particular piece of a code, malicious code, right? Which we think could contain any sort of a malware. So we are going to review it up. So in static analysis, we are not running that particular piece of a code. Fine. Okay. So this is there. This would be the one of the best option that we'll be having in place, performing a static analysis. When we have a particular piece of a code and we are just reviewing that particular piece of code without running it up. Okay, that's the basic difference between static analysis and dynamic analysis. And remember, the static analysis and dynamic analysis are performed inside a sandbox environment, inside an isolated environment. Okay, perfect. So static analysis, it means the code would be written. You will be going line by line to each and every code, and you will be figuring out, is there anything which is looking suspicious into it. Dynamic analysis means running that particular piece of a code there, right? That piece of a software inside a thing. Okay. And then you have this another option in place, which is called the fuzzing. Fuzzing means what, guys? Fuzzing means putting random text, random input into your particular application to figure it out that your particular application can handle so much of a stress. Okay, it should not be the scenario that if a lot of inputs are being provided to your respective application, it start to malfunction. That should not be the case. Okay, so that is the fuzzing. So for this particular question, the correct answer would be to perform a static analysis. If I have a particular piece of a code, definitely for sure I will be doing it inside a sandbox. But what will I do inside a sandbox? If this is a particular sandbox, what will I do? Just having a sandbox just resolve my particular issue? No. Inside the sandbox, either I need to do performing static analysis or dynamic analysis. But for this particular scenario, I will be going for the static analysis. I would be looking for the particular code without running it. Okay, that's what we have in place. Okay, so guys, let's okay see, this is a particular correct answer, static analysis. Great. Now, guys, this is the fourth question you have in place. Just go through it. Okay. Okay. So let's look through this particular question. The question says that if you if you compromise a jump server, okay, jump server, it's a kind of a bastion host. If you have remember that, it's jump server is just a secure server you have in place, fine. Okay, so which of the following outcome is likely to occur as an attacker if you compromise the jump server or the bastion host, which is a very secure server? So what are the consequences your an organization is going to face? Fine, so let's look into these things, options we have in place. Okay, first option says that you have an access to the entire network. Okay, I would say correct, right? Fine. Bastion host is a secure server you have in place. In most of the architecture that I have seen is that your particular isolated environment can only send the things outward, but outside would put outside traffic, or I would say, uh, traffic coming from the internet would be restricted in some of the scenarios if you configure the Bastion host like that. But in short, Bastion host or the jump server is a secure server you have in place which protects your a private network of your respective organization. Okay, great. So this could be the correct answer. Okay, let's look for the other answers as well. B, you will be navigated to a restricted and isolated environment. Okay, this could be a scenario, right? Not always, but this could be a scenario where when you just bypass this particular jump server, you find out a particular respective vulnerability in this particular jump server, you exploit that vulnerability, and you are now having an access to a restricted to an isolated environment. Okay, fine. This could be a thing. Great. Okay, let's now in the C options, what we have, you will be access to the jump server only. No, I would say. And in the D you have, you will be navigated to the DMZ environment. Okay, this could be in some scenarios, but we have to pick one of the best. What do you think? This is the absolutely the worst case scenario. Right? When your DMZ gets compromised, there could be scenarios where it could lead you to the DMZ, demilitarized zone. Fine. If that's the scenario, you do not need to worry about any of it. Fine. But most of the time, your DMZ would be protecting your entire network. It would be I would say like a bodyguard. Okay, if that particular DMZ gets compromised, that demilitarized zone, sorry, that DMZ, the jump server gets compromised or your bastion host gets compromised, so what will happen is that it will allow any kind of a traffic or any particular malicious person to enter inside the organization, and then he will be having an access to the entire network. Okay, so in this particular scenario, A would be the correct answer for that. Sure. Okay, so guys, this is the fifth question. Just go through it. Okay, so let's see this particular question. The question says that you have configured a root and two subordinates certificate authority. So we have a certificate authority, okay, which we call it by the name of CA, right? In the PK, public key infrastructure, we have the certificate authority, the entity which provides the certificate, right? So it has two subordinates. It has two subordinates, we can say. Okay, perfect. Now, you want to ensure that the root server is highly secure. So you want that this particular certificate authority or the root server, fine, is highly secure. It should be absolutely secure. There should be no reason that it gets compromised. You need to protect this one. Okay. So which of the following recommendation method should you use? Okay. So what should we do in an order to protect our certificate authority? Right? Because if the certificate authority gets compromised, so the private key of the certificate gets revealed, and definitely for sure, if that's get revealed, then there is no use of the digital certificate. Okay, that's the thing. So what should we do? The first option says that power off the root server and keep it offline. This is, guys, is the correct answer, right? Okay, fine. So what will happen in this particular scenario? What we'll do is that something can go wrong, right? If this particular certificate authority, let me just write once again. If this particular certificate authority is easy to be reached, it is connected to the internet. Let's take an example of it, of an InfosecTrain, of any other organization is going to for this particular certificate authority, and it has intermediate authority, okay, or the subordinate authority, same thing, and then you have the user. Okay, so if this particular certificate authorities can easily be reached by anyone, what will happen in this particular scenario? A hacker can also reach it out, right? It can exploit a vulnerability, it can put up a virus malware kind of thing inside it, right? And definitely for sure the private key, The private key is a very important thing of a certificate authority. The private key, the PVT, the private key would get compromised, and if it gets compromised, then all the digital certificates which it's been provided by the certificate authority or the intermediate authority would be also gets compromised, and definitely it will be creating a lot of problem to the end user. Okay, so to resolve that kind of an issue, some of the organizations use this kind of mechanism in place where they cut this particular certificate authority from the internet. They make it offline. You can still reach it out, but they cut it from the outside world through the internet. So it is in general, it is not connected to the internet directly. Okay, fine. Okay, so the certificate authority would be put offline. Great. And then what will happen? Normally, this is called the root of trust, right? This particular hierarchy that you're seeing is called the root of trust. Okay. So in this particular thing, what will happen? Whether the certificate authority, which is actually providing the certificate, whether that particular authority is offline or it's online, irrespective of that, it kinds of gives the permission to the intermediate authority. It's give the permission to the intermediate authority. That boss intermediate authority, you can assign certificate to different website on my respective behalf. Okay, this is called the root of trust we have in place. So for this particular question, guys, the correct answer would be the power of the root server and keep it offline. Okay, great. So guys, this is the sixth question. Just go through it. Okay. The question says that botnets can be used to set what type of coordinated attack in motion. The first is DDoS. Okay. Another one is called the cross-site scripting attack. This is web application attack, right? It happens in the web application part. Okay, the cross-site scripting, SQL injection, right? So this is kind of an injection attacks we have in place. So this is not going to be the correct answer. Then you have the privilege escalation. Privilege escalation just means that privilege means, guys, permission. Okay, in your respective organization, based upon the department that you're working in, you have been provided the permission, or I would say the privilege by your respective organization. If you are working in the sales department, definitely for sure, based upon the sales requirement of a same person, you have been provided the privilege, the permission. Fine, the privilege, permission, same thing. And then you have another one, another particular person who is working in, let's say, for example, in the cloud part. Okay, then he would be providing some different permission or different privileges. So what will happen is that when you try to breach these permissions, right, you want to, or you try to do any kind of a thing, any sort of an activity which is outside this permission which is being provided by a respective organization, that is called privilege escalation. And so it means short that if a salesperson is there and he has an access to one particular server, great. But let's say, for example, he just want to hack into or gain access to the server which belongs to the DevOps teams. So that's called the privilege escalation. This particular guy who is working the sales team, doesn't make a sense that he wants to access the DevOps server, fine, or the cloud server. Okay, that is called privilege escalation, going beyond your the permission which is being provided to you. That is called the privilege escalation. Okay, and in the cyber security, guys, we have two type of privilege escalation. One is called the horizontal privilege escalation, where what we try to do is that we try to eat up or use up the privileges of the particular person who is kind of a colleague or at the same position as we are. And then you have the vertical privilege escalation, where we try to gain the privileges, the permission of a CEO, CTO, or a board member. Fine, that's called the privilege, vertical privilege escalation. Okay, then we have the rootkit. Rootkit guide is kind of a malware we have in place. Okay, so if again we go to the question, and when we read the question says that botnet can be used for what kind of thing? The botnet will be used for a DOS or for DDoS. Fine. So what will happen is that your particular system gets compromised. It gets infected by a virus. Let's say, for example, fine. And when your particular PC gets compromised, let's say for example of Ashish. So Ashish systems, Ashish go to any kind of a malicious website, right? In a greed, let's hypothetically, in a greed of, let's say for example, downloading a web series free of cost or games which thousands or millions of people do worldwide every single day. That's not a good thing. So what they do is that they go to this respective infected website, right, and they download something and virus also gets inserted into your respective system. When that scenario happens, when your particular system get infected, then we have something which is called the botnet. It means that Ashi's system has now been converted into something, a technical word we have in place, which is called by the name of botnet, a compromised system, a system which has already been compromised. Okay, that is called the botnet. So what is the purpose of the botnet? Why as a hacker I would be making so many botnets? Why? What's the reason behind it? To perform something which is called by the name of DOS attack or DDoS attack, right? DDoS, it's a kind of a much more complicated than the DOS attack. So what will happen is that this would be the attacker. Fine. Let's say for example, this is I am that particular attacker, and what I will be doing is that I have multiple bots. Okay, this could be bot one in some part of the world, this could be bot two, it could be another person, fine, and this could be another machine which has already been infected in some other part of the world. So three systems I have in place, fine. Now what will happen is that, let's say for example, this is my target, this is my target, which is, let's say for example, in New Zealand. So what I will be doing is that in this particular scenario I will be performing something which is called the DOS attack. What I will be doing, I will be sending a message, right, through the command and control. We have a command and control server. So attacker would be sending a message to these B1, B2 and B3 servers, or I would say bot, right? And a combination of bot are called the botnet. So I will be sending a message to each one of the bot, and they will be start bombarding with malicious traffic to this particular target. So this target could be a particular organization based in New Zealand, or could be individual, or could be a Amazon like website, right, an e-commerce website where it start receiving thousands and millions of requests from a particular person in from India, then from another person from Brazil, another person from US. Fine, that's kind of thing we have in place. So for botnet, bot command and control are used particularly in the scenario of the DOS. Okay, so let's see for the answer. Yes, absolutely correct. Fine. So there's the dots and the cross-site scripting, guys. This is for web applications. It is a kind of a web application attack we have in place. Fine. Okay, correct. So now let's move to the seventh question we have in place. So guys, this is the seventh question. Just go through it. So let's look for the question. The question says that what is the term given to a framework or model outlining the phases of attack? Fine. So the framework is there which outlines the phases of an attack to help security personnel defend their systems and respond to the attack. So what we need to do, we need to find out a particular framework which has this particular, which talks about different phases of attack. Great. Okay. So first we have command and control. Fine, absolutely incorrect. Command and control is a kind of a thing, it's a server we have in place. Command and control server, CNC we say it in short as well. So the CNC, command and control, guys, is a kind of a thing which is used particularly to manage the different botnets, right? Or to send a message or to control the different bot and the botnets, right, which is particularly used in the context of the DOS attack, denial of service. Fine. Okay. Then we have another one which is called intrusion kill chain, or another terminology, another name it has also by the name of cyber kill chain, a very famous thing, right? A very famous framework. And in this particular framework, it outlines the different phases of attack. It tells us that generally, if an attack is being performed, no matter the magnitude of an attack, fine, it tells the general way through which an attack would be performed by an attacker, whether it's an APT, whether it's a hacktivist, whether it's a black hat hacker, whatever it is. It kind of tells us a general idea that these would be the basic phases of an attack would be performed, right? This is called cyber kill chain. Fine. And then you have cyber incident response team. This is a response team when your attack is being performed over your respective organization. If an attack happens in your respective organization, what kind of action you need to do, that it talks about in the cyber incident response. Fine. Okay. And then you have the cert as well. Okay. So cert, what is a cert? Cert's a very interesting thing. Cert is an organization we have in place. It stands for Computer Emergency Response Team. Fine. And this operates at different level. And this cert, what it does is that it helps us, particularly I would say it works at a national level. Like in India also it has, in US also it is called by the name of US cert. Fine. So what they do, okay, United States Computer Emergency, Readiness Team. So what it does, it provides us guidelines, it provides us recommendation, updates, right? That this is a particular vulnerability which has been recently found in this particular, let's say for example, Google Chrome. Update, uh, all of your respective devices, right, to the latest Google Chrome. Okay, that's kind of things in place. Fine. So this is also not the thing. We are talking about a particular framework which talks about step by step. What it talks about, step by step attack patterns. Fine. So like in the this intrusion kill chain, which could be the which would be the correct answer for this particular question. It's also called as by the name of cyber kill chain. Fine. And it has how many? It has 7 steps. 7 steps, right? The first step is called the reconnaissance step. Just giving you a very short summary of it. The first step, guys, is called the reconnaissance step. Fine. Then you have the weaponization. Reconnaissance, what we do is that we try to understand about, or we try to gather as much information about a particular person as possible. Okay, let's say for example there is Vijay. So if I want to hack into Vijay's system or his respective organization or Microsoft, or I want to hack into Microsoft. So as per this intrusion kill chain or cyber kill chain, what is the first step that I will be doing is that I will be gathering as much information possible about Vijay or about Microsoft, that where he occasionally goes on a weekend, right? Who his friends are, which is an job role he's been assigned in your respective organization, which type of car he owns, right? What is his Instagram ID? All this kind of information. The more information about I gather about my target, the better is the possibility that I will be able to hack into his system, steal his critical information, and will be able to persist or present in his organized, I would say, complete system for a longer duration of time. That is called the reconnaissance, right? Then at the second step we have in place out of the second step is called the weaponization. So based upon the information that I have gathered, right, I will be creating up the weapon. Then the third step is the delivery. Okay, so you have created a respective weapon, right? Weapon like a virus or a malware or a ransomware. Okay, great. So how to deliver it to a respective target? That would we talk in the third step of the delivery. Fine. And then you have the exploitation. So okay, so you have delivered your respective virus through email, through an SMS, through a link, right? And the target has clicked into it. Now what will happen is that your particular virus will be getting installed in the system, which is the fourth step of exploitation. Then you have the fifth step of installation, where the malware gets installed in the system, and it also start installing some additional other viruses as well. Fine, to make a better grip or to make a better hold over a particular application. Then you have the sixth phase, which is called the command and control. And now what will happen is that the attacker would be controlling your particular devices, right? Because now your system has been compromised. Like I was taking the example of Vijay. So Vijay's system has been compromised. Now his system has been converted into a bot. Now in the sixth step, is called the command and control, C and C, right? So anytime, anywhere now onwards you see C and C, it means command and control. It's a server. What it does is that it control all the bots. Fine, because inside an organized, like from an attacker perspective, I'm telling you, the attacker can have thousands of bots, right? Thousands of compromised or hacked PCs, computers, mobile from across the globe. It's not a great idea that he go to each and every server or each and every device and communicate with it individually. That's not a great idea. So what they do, they establish up a server, they send a message to the server, and server forwards it to everyone, every bot. Fine. And then the second seventh step we have in place is called the action on objective. Whatever the respective objectives were, they were fulfilled. So this is what the framework which tells about the phases of attack, which is also called by the name of intrusion kill chain, or famously also called as by the name of cyber kill chain, which was created by the Lockheed Martin. Great. Okay. So this is the correct answer. Intrusion kill chain. Great. Okay. So now, guys, let's go to the eighth question. Okay, guys, this is the eighth question. Go through it. Okay. So let's look at the question. The question says that a security manager needs to protect a high security data center. So the manager install an access control vestibule, right, that can detect an employee's heartbeat, weight, and badge. Which of the following did the security manager implement? Fine. Okay. For this particular thing, the correct answer would be physical control. Why? Because this heartbeat, weight, and the badge comes under the physical control. Physical control are those kind of control physically created, right, or physically implemented. Like you have like I would say the biometrics would be the next example of the firewall, right? That's the physical control you have in place. Okay. Then you have another kind of thing. Okay, so let's talk about these things. Why they are not the correct answer. Fine. So corrective control talks about that if something has gone wrong in your respective organization, if there is a fire, if there is a virus, okay, in your particular PC, if this is your particular PC, and if you have your particular, I would say, a virus inside it up, corrective control talks about to correct it, to get rid of this particular virus, to make this particular PC back to normal. That is what a corrective control is, to correct, right, the situation, whatever the situation is. If let's say, for example, in your respective organization there is a fire, okay, then corrective control talks about eliminating that particular fire through an extinguisher, okay, or whatever the means is. That's called about the corrective control. Okay. So here we are not talking about any kind of an intrusion. Just we are going to talk. We are what we are trying to do is that we are setting up a infrastructure in place. Through that, we can easily identify that this particular employee, based upon these categories, heartbeat, weight, badge, we can classify him that this particular employee belongs to our organization or not. That simple thing. Okay. So corrective control would not be there. Then you have the compensating control. Compensating control means that if the primary control, if this is your particular primary control, and if this control fails, then you have a backup in place, which is called the compensating control. That is the thing. Okay. Let's say, for example, if this is your particular, let's say, inverter in, okay, this is your particular inverter. Great. And then what will happen is that you have a generator as well of your respective organization. Let's say, for example, this inverter fails. This is your primary control. If something goes wrong, this was your particular primary control. Fine. It will making your particular infrastructure much more resilient. Okay, due to any reason, what will happen is that, okay, what will happen is that, no, Giridhar, security guard was not in compensating control, boss, right? It will be in operational control. So what will happen is that if this particular inverter fails, what will happen? We have a backup. And what is that particular backup is? It is this particular generator. So this is the compensating control. Fine. Like in the cricket, in the different kind of sports, we have an extra player as well. Fine. If one of the player get injured, so that particular extra can come and play with that. Same with the compensating control. This generator is just lying there till the time this inverter malfunction. The moment it malfunctions, the generator is powered on, and now it provides electricity to the all the or complete organization or to the critical servers in place. Fine. And then you have the managerial control. See, managerial control talks about the policy. It talks about the managers, right? And what the managers does is that mostly they talk about creating of the policy and implementation of it. That comes under the managerial control. Let's take an example of it. In your respective organization, you have a particular policy which talks about that the minimum password, right, should be of 12 characters. It should be some should be it could should contain some symbols, capital letters, small letters, numbers. And nowadays I've seen that many organizations, they are absolutely making it a mandatory that to implement MFA, multi-factor authentication. Fine. So that's the policy of your organization. That comes under the managerial control. So for this particular scenario, requirement of your security manager, the best correct answer would be your physical control. Great. Okay. So let's look for the answer as well. Absolutely. It's the physical control that we have in place. Okay. Great. Now, guys, let's go for the next question in place. This is the next question. Guys, go through it. Okay. The question says that Joe, an employee who is going to be fired in 3 days, which of the following characterization describe the employee? Okay. So the first is the competitor. Uh, okay. And the second we have is called the insider threat. Okay, so we if he is a competitor, I still think that he does not pose, you know, kind of provide any kind of security issue or problem to the organization. No problem with that, right? Okay, but insider threat, it's an absolutely a different thing. B, the insider threat for this particular option would be correct, and let me explain you why this B would be correct. This insider threat. Insider threat in general, guys, means that an employee who is still working inside an organization. Remember, Joe is be will be fired after 3 days. Fine. So now in this particular scenario, what will happen is that he will be leaking out information. He still has access to multiple servers. Okay. He still has access to, let's say, for example, he is working in the DevOps project. Okay. So he has access to DevOps servers. In the DevOps, we use the cloud and multiple other tools as well. So he has access to all the data, the complete pipeline, okay, the application, the code, all these kind of things. So what he can do is that he can steal those information, those critical information about the server, about the project, about the upcoming plans of the organization. And then what he can do is that he can either blackmail the organization or sell it to the competitor, or can release it to or sell it over the dark web. Okay, that is an insider threat. An employee who is still part of the organization but still leaking out. Okay, stabbing the organization in the back. Fine. And the third is called the hacktivist. So what is actually an hacktivist? Hacktivist is a type of an hacker, and what he does is that he has a political agenda. Okay, so Anonymous is a perfect example of a hacktivist. Okay, an organization, what they do is they are actually an activist, right? Like normally, what activists do, it like they have a particular agenda in place. Okay, so based upon whether you like it or not, that's a completely different thing. But based upon their different agenda, they will be performing the hack. If, let's say, for example, if there is a group of hacktivists and they do not like, let's say, for example, there is a plant just operating, okay, and the particular is a refinery, petroleum, and that particular group of hacktivists are very concerned about the climate change. So what they will be doing is that based upon their political agenda or their ideology, okay, what they will be doing is that they will be trying to hack into that particular refinery and trying to shut it down, right, based upon their agenda. That is the hacktivist. So we are not talking about it, right? So, as per the scenario, Joe is not an hacktivist. Joe is already a part of an organization. So, he fits in the insider threat. And Another one we have in place, which is the state actor. State actor means that it is a type of a hacker or a group of hacker. It could be an multiple people, and what they are doing is that they are being well funded by the state government. Okay, the best example is the North Korean government, right? Okay, so there was a attack which was taken place, a very famous one in 2014 over Sony Pictures, and it was being performed by the group of hackers which was called by the name of the Guardian of Peace. And the interesting thing about those hackers was that those Guardian of Peace were being well funded by the North Korean regime. Okay, these state actors, they were well funded by the North Korean regime. They were backed with the millions of dollars were spent on training, on the hardware, software, setting up a building where they can through which they can perform the attack and those kind of things. So state actors are the actors which are well funded by the government. Okay, that's the thing. So for this particular scenario, the Joe fell best into the fit best into the insider threat. Okay, he is not being well funded by any government. He is not setting up. He is not, you know, working based upon his political ideology. That's not the case. Okay, great. So he fits in the insider threat. Great. So now, guys, let's move to the next question. And yes, see, the great answer is the insider threat. Okay. The next question is, guys, this. Go through it. Okay. So let's look for this particular question. The question says that an organization has a policy in place that state the person who approved the firewall control changes, any kind of a changes has been made to the firewall, okay, or it could be any kind of an application, cannot be the one implementing the change. Fine. So one a particular person who has approved the firewall, he cannot implement the changes into it. Fine. Who have approved the particular changes, control any kind of a thing, he cannot implement it up. Okay. So for this particular thing, if you look for the policies, the best policy for this would be separation of duty. This one, separation of duty. So what is a separation of duty? Okay, separation of duty, guys, means that the particular duty is being divided or segmented between multiple individuals. Let's take an example. Let's say, for example, this is a particular responsibility, or this is a server, I would say, right? Okay, and this particular server, the job of this particular server is that it should be holding the data of the client in a secure manner. Absolutely great thing. Perfect. But now the problem arises in this particular scenario is that, let's say, for example, the server is being updated, maintained, okay, and everything, every sort of an activity is handled by one single individual. Is it a great idea from a security point of view? Absolutely not. One individual handling lot of or having a full access or full control of the property or the resources of an organization, okay, from a security point of view, that's not a great idea. So what generally inside an organization what we do is that we separate the duties. Person first, P1 would be updating this particular server, P2 would be creating the files only, P3 would be deleting the files. So that is called the separation of a duty. A duty is being segmented up between multiple individuals. Fine. So one particular person would be adding a file, another one would be deleting a file, another one would be manipulating the file, removing it, deleting it, those kind of things. So it is segmented between so what's the benefit we have in place? So one of the biggest benefit of separation of duty is that if, let's say, for example, any of the particular person gets, you know, becomes a insider threat, so definitely for sure he does not have the ultimate power. So he has limited control, limited amount of permission that what kind of activities he can perform over the respective server. That's a scenario. Okay, absolutely, Shiva, that is also one of the things we have in place. Fine. Oh, great. Okay, That is called the separation of duty we have in place. Okay, then we have a very interesting thing. This one, job rotation, right? Job rotation, guys, what it means is that job rotation, you have a particular employee of an organization. Let's say, for example, P1 is there, okay? Person one, he is, let's say, for example, a Python developer. Okay, for a period of, let's say, for example, 1 year, he is in being a Python developer. So now in your respective organization, you have a particular policy of job rotation. So as you as if you go by the particular policy, that particular Python developer would be shifted or would be transferred to the DevOps team. Okay, so what will happen? It is a win-win situation for the organization as well as for the employee. First is that the Python developer has been promoted to the DevOps team, and now he has more exposure of not just development, he has a more exposure of the operations, security, that complete pipeline. Great. Perfect. Fine. That's absolutely an upskill for that particular employee. And if you look from the organization point of view, what's the benefit of an organization that a particular employee who is working in a Java or a developer, and then you move it to the cloud or the DevOps part? The benefit is that when you move it, then you can do the auditing as well. Fine. When I'm in the Python developer and then I'm switched to the let's say, for example, DevOps, DevSecOps. So definitely, for sure, when I am moving it up, then in the back end, my organization would be performing some sort of an auditing upon me. Fine, that's is called the job rotation, which is very very important and very prevalent. I have seen in many organizations nowadays. Right. So the correct answer for this particular scenario would be separation of duty, where a particular thing is being split between multiple parties, so that one individual does not have the ultimate control over it. Okay, great. So guys, let's look for the answer. Absolutely, separation of duty. Now, guys, let's look for the next question we have in place. This is the next question, guys. Just go through it. Okay, guys. So let's look for the question. The question says that an organization has decided to purchase an insurance company because a risk assessment determined, right, that a cost to remediate the risk is greater than 5 years cost of an insurance policy. The organization is enabling what is the thing? Fine. Absolutely. Very good. Most of you has given the absolutely the correct answer. The correct answer is the transferring, right? Which is called the risk transferring. What it means is that if in your respective organization has some sort of a risk, you take up an insurance. So what really happens in the insurance, like in health insurance or a vehicle insurance, right? What will happen? You just pay the premium, and then the risk, the possibility, right? What's an actually a risk is? Risk means the probability, the possibility that something can go wrong. So let's say, for example, the possibility that an organization can face a ransomware attack, that now possibility is now the headache of the insurance company. If the organization faces any sort of a ransomware attack, what is going to happen? That respective organization is going to be provided that funds, right, by the insurance company. Okay, the claim, I would say. Okay, like normally we have in the health as well. If a particular person just need have a health insurance, it means that if something goes wrong with this health, there's a minor surgery or there is a major surgery related to any organ, right? Okay, so that particular probability is now the headache upon the insurance company. If the problem that arrive, right, now the claim would be passed by the insurance company. Same here as well. That's called the risk transfer. You have the risk, you are transferring to somebody else, right? Okay, that is the risk transfer. Risk mitigation means to get rid of that particular risk. If there is a risk that your particular organization, 20% is the particular probability of your organization that you have analyzed that is going to be facing a ransomware attack. Mitigation means getting rid of this 20%. Okay, then is comes the risk acceptance. Risk acceptance means that there is a risk and your organization is well aware about it. Okay, your CO, CTO, and all this, your, I would say, managers, right, are absolutely aware about it. But still, what they do, they take this risk and they move ahead, right? they do their respective calculation, they are aware about what that things can go wrong, but they still try to do it. That's called the risk acceptance. Fine. Let's say for example, if your organization is working in, let's say for example, some part of the Asia, right? And in that particular scenario, there is 20% probability that you may face some sort of a ransomware attack, but still the organization say, okay, no problem with that, we can handle it. 20% we can resolve it out. That is called accepting the risk, right? And then is avoidance. Avoidance means that okay, you get that okay, this is a particular country in the Asia or the Africa or the Europe, and there is a probability that 20% that something can go wrong with my respective organization. So what you do is that you avoid that particular risk. Okay, that is called risk avoidance. You does not want to resolve to be in a situation where your organization is facing some sort of a ransomware attack. So what you do, you avoid that particular scenario. That is called risk avoidance. Okay, so these are the things. So best correct answer for this particular is the transferring. Fine. See, absolutely, the transferring of this particular thing in place. Fine. Okay, great. So guys, this was for today, right? And hope you learned something new today.